Since the turn of the century, the U.S. has seen a majority of its state governments completely lean in one political direction or another, regardless of the party. 40 states have one-party control of the governorship and both legislative bodies, also known as a trifecta government. It's a dramatic shift from the early 2000s, when 3/5 of the country had reasonable political balance between the two majority parties. In an opinion piece for the Washington Post, former Indiana Governor Mitch Daniels argues that the structural forces of this kind of government lead to bad lawmaking. Former Indiana Governor Mitch Daniels joins us now. Governor, it's great to be with you. What's wrong with power being in the hands of one party across the state?
It doesn't necessarily lead to bad government. My own state of Indiana has, I think, been very responsibly governed, John, but in the last 10 or 15 years with one-party domination. But everywhere in life, business, and certainly in politics, competition is healthier. And particularly in our politics, the absence of it leads, I think, to candidates doing what makes sense, which is competing and campaigning to the edges, paying little or no attention to the broader issues that might unite their states, might speak more to things we have in common, as opposed to things that the most ardent of their supporters are most interested in.
In your experience, how did this work when you had to worry about an electorate that was a little bit more representative and not just worried about speaking to the edge?
It meant that first in campaigning and then in governing, we were always trying to think of those things that might bring people together, that they might come together around, and that in half of our 8 years, we had to work with a divided legislature. So we looked for issues that our Democratic friends might be similarly interested in. If there were issues that they weren't, sometimes we tried to at least cut them in, those who were willing to come with us. I think it led to, again, a greater spirit of communitarianism in our state. Certainly led us to do big things as opposed to small and narrower concerns that were of not of interest to the whole.
How did we get here, Governor?
I think there are a number of social research has identified a number of potential causes. The nationalization of news, John. So many people watching you and your counterparts as local news, particularly print journalism, has collapsed. I think a very unfortunate trend. That's played a role. Social media, of course, has tended to accent the uglier or more strident, at least, modes of communication and issue choices. So, and there's been social clustering that has been chronicled for some time. And so all these things together, they're nobody's fault necessarily, but I don't think they are conducive to the kind of politics that speaks to our broader interest or our better natures.
So as a final question, is there a way, Governor, to change the structural incentives so that lawmakers have to reach to a larger electorate? Any suggestions that you think have merit?
There may be. I personally believe that restoring to the parties a greater ability to greater authority and control over nominations and over dollars might once again move them to their historic role of competing for a broad majority. I think that if that doesn't happen, and it's unlikely, then we might need to take a look at ranked choice voting and some of these other mechanisms that are being suggested now. But the real antidote is, in a non-competitive state, for the out party to rethink itself and to re-examine how it became pushed to the sidelines and reform its policy positions and its selection of candidates and become competitive once again.
Former Indiana Governor Mitch Daniels, thank you so much, Governor.